By combining the speed, intelligence, control, visibility, and domination you need to compete, the Killer 2100 Gaming Network card provides the perfect blend of gaming passion and technical know-how to guarantee your gaming experience is flawless in both its speed and its performance. Find out more information at www.bigfootnetworks.com.
Hi, this is EG.IdrA Fields of Team Evil Geniuses, and this is a Fragmore University Pro Replay review brought to you by Bigfoot Networks. In this match, we will have me versus HuK from MLG DC, and it's a ZVP on the map Xel'Naga Caverns. Here we see me as the blue Zerg in the top right, and HuK as the red Protoss in the bottom left. This map is actually somewhat a difficult map for Zerg early game versus Protoss, because as you can see, the natural is very, very open. There's even a back path here. There's two entrances to the front, so Protoss can come up here and threaten to go up the ramp, threaten to throw a force field on here and just end the game right there. Or they can come in from this angle, if this is less defended, and just attack the natural directly. They can come around back. It's a very popular tactic to actually build a pylon back here and warp in units and do a two-pronged attack, come in from the front and bring stalkers from the back. So it's just very difficult in general for Zerg to defend this expansion versus Protoss early game. However, if it does move into the late game, or the mid game, it's a pretty long rush distance. There's a lot of expansions that are pretty spread out, and so the matchup gradually shifts to Zerg's favor as the longer the game goes on. You can see HuK sending out his very early probe. He's very gung-ho about this early probe harass. He always sends out a probe in every matchup and tries to harass your workers or block your expansion. And again, this is a very, very important tactic. It's always worthwhile to block a Zerg's expansion. You should do it any opportunity you get. You also see HuK going for a very late gateway, a 14 gateway. And me going for a 14 pool. And he leaves his probe out here so that there's no way a drone can sneak around. A lot of Protosses will send that probe up into the main to scout around, but that gives Zerg the opportunity to hide a drone down here, run it around, or have a drone hidden out here preemptively and come in here. So usually it's worthwhile just to leave the probe here and make absolutely certain that Zerg can't expand. Here, however, I went pool first, so it's not a huge deal. And as soon as I bring these two drones down, he leaves the probe here as he knows, he leaves the pylon here as he knows he can't keep blocking it with the probe. The probe will die pretty quickly against the two drones there. He has his gas up off one gateway. That shows he's going to tech. He'll build a cyber core here as soon as the gateway's done. And he also cancels the pylon. This is an interesting decision. It's kind of up in the air. Some players will cancel the pylon, some will leave it there. Personally, I feel it's better to leave it there and delay the expansion that much longer, but that is personal preference. Here, I'm actually getting a really late gas. This is unusual. And I wanted to get that expansion down as quickly as possible, and I wasn't concerned with rushing to tech or to Zergling speed. A drone scout sees he's on one gateway and teching quickly, also chronoing out his zealot. This is required because he got his gateway so late that it's somewhat vulnerable. He has to get that zealot out pretty quickly. He also builds his gas immediately upon seeing my drone so that I can't steal it. That's very intelligent, as stealing the gas is a very good tactic for Zerg. Now here he puts down a quick second gateway. As soon as the core is done, he also starts researching warp gate and chronoing it out. It's very important as Zerg to scout this, as it tells you that they're likely to be aggressive early, that they're not teching and probably not expanding. And here, my gas is finally done. I'm also getting my second queen, and I have one queen done already. And the probe dies as it attempts to get one last look at my base. It doesn't see what I'm doing, so HuK is still somewhat in the dark right now. He doesn't know my gas timing or how I'm teching. Here you can see him building a stalker. This is a build that's become very popular lately, rushing out a couple of stalkers and using that to harass before Zerg has Zergling speed up, because stalkers are faster than Zerglings off creep, so you can kite them. They're also faster and longer range than queens, which means you can harass. And also, it's very hard to get a sunken up in time if you don't go hatchery first, because you don't have creep. So this makes stalker harass very effective in general early. It doesn't cost very much, so it's simply a good investment for Protoss. The proper Zerg response to this is to simply take damage with the queen and buy time until you have enough Zerglings out to force them back, or until your spine crawler is finished. And this is a very dangerous situation, as it's really hard for me to defend that queen, and the queen is so important early that Zerg really just can't afford to lose it. But here he got kind of over-aggressive chasing down that drone. He took a lot of damage on that Stalker. He has to pull back for now. But we see another Stalker on the way, and warp gate's already done, so he warps in another Stalker and heads out. This is kind of an unusual decision. Most people will stop with the Stalker Harass after 2, but he's decided to be more aggressive with it. I have Zergling speed nearly done. I have a lair on the way and a Roach Warren building. And this shows that I'm headed towards Roach and Speedling, which is a very good counter to gateway units. It is vulnerable to Void Rays, but this was played immediately after the patch that nerfed Void Rays pretty significantly. So I didn't consider that a threat that was worth considering, and I focused mainly on going Zergling Roach. This is a very questionable decision by him. By leaving his Stalkers back here, he's just very vulnerable. I can run in here with the creep here, with Speedlings on the way, I trap his Stalkers, and I kill them all essentially for free, just because Zerglings are so efficient versus Stalkers. So while Stalker Harass is a good idea, this was a big commitment by him, and you really don't want to make decisions like that. You don't want to overcommit with this kind of thing. And here, my Zergling speed finishes. I run in, and I kill them all for 1 or 2 drones. That was not a good decision by him. You should not be aggressive like that. On the bright side, it did secure him this expansion. He's now pretty safe, as he has a bunch of sentries out. He has a building wall. If I try and be aggressive, he can just force field this off and be almost completely safe. We've reached kind of a lull in the action here, so before we continue, I just want to pause and remind you guys that this replay review is brought to you by Bigfoot Networks, maker of the Killer 2100. The Killer 2100 is a top-of-the-line gaming network card that increases performance across all online games. I use it myself and I love it, and I'd highly recommend you guys check it out at www.bigfootnetworks.com. Now, let's go back into the game. As I said, the game is kind of stabilized for the moment. His expansion just finished. He wants to get this online, build some extra probes. He's also putting up his gateways, going up to 5 gateways total. Oh, pardon, 4 gateways and a forge. And you see how he adds a gateway and starts the upgrade immediately after the expansion finishes. This is to take advantage of all these new resources he's getting. You'll see a lot of less experienced Protosses actually build the gateways earlier on, before they actually have the resources to support it off of the expansion. But you want to wait until the expansion finishes and then have your gateways kick in, then have them be ready to produce. There was a minor skirmish out here. He moved out and I danced around with Zerglings here while harassing with Roaches here. Just kind of split him up and abused the mobility my Zerglings give me and the fact that he's dependent on force fields. He can't really engage cleanly. This also served the added benefit of scaring him. He puts out this cannon here because he doesn't know if I'm going to go all in or if I'm just kind of being annoying. So when you have speed Zerglings like that, it's very good to be kind of harassy and aggressive with them. Just because they're so cheap, they're so fast, you're not expending much, and it just makes your opponent nervous, which is always good. Here we see him going for a fast robotics. This is smart, as I'm going Roach. It's definitely good to get out the Immortals, and Roaches will often transition into Roach Hydra, in which case you want Colossus. So robotics tech is a very good decision here. And he continues to build up his economy, as do I. I'm taking my 3rd base, cleared out the rocks here so that I can defend it. I'm also spreading my creep. Again, this is always very important to spread your creep as Zerg. It gives you so much better mobility, it gives you map control, scouting information. It's well worth your time to focus on spreading creep tumors. And here, HuK is moving out with a kind of standard expansion warp gate timing pressure. This is not designed to kill the Zerg. He has not invested resources in this. He's made sure he has a full probe count. He's also teching and upgrading. This is only to kind of scare the Zerg, make sure I don't make too many drones. Unfortunately, I did make too many drones. I've kind of overcommitted the economy here. My army isn't really as strong as it needs to be, and I engaged him. So I just lost a lot of units there, and it wasn't really a good change for me. However, because it was only a harassing army, he doesn't have enough to kill me off. My reinforcing Roaches will be able to hold him off. He also spent a lot of force fields there. It was excellent force fields, but there were too many of them. He now doesn't have very much mana, and he can't trap these units, he can't block them off, so he loses part of his army, as I can chase him down. So, if he had pulled back immediately, that would have gone well for him, but as it was, I was able to kill off enough units to make it worthwhile for myself. I've also secured my 3rd expansion. I'm making a bunch of drones now. And this is the proper way to take advantage of something like that. He threw away all those units. I have a bunch of units left over. I'm completely safe right now. So I immediately go and make a bunch of drones and get my third base online. And this gives me an economic advantage. Making more units wouldn't do anything. I couldn't attack here. He can just force field here and here. He has immortals, which are really efficient versus roaches. He's just in a very good defensive posture, and it's hard for Zerg to be aggressive at this point in the game. So instead, I want to focus on making a lot of drones, securing my expansions, getting upgrades, and just really setting myself up well for the late game. Because I know he will not be able to attack me, at least not, he will not be dangerous to me for a long period of time, so I'm free to do whatever I want. And here, I've seen that he has immortals, so I'm switching to Hydralisks. Roaches are good early game units, but really once they get robotics tech out, or any other kind of tech beyond gateway units, you really need to add in either Hydralisks or Mutalisks, possibly Infestors or Banelings, just any other kind of unit, because pure Roach dies badly to Stalker Immortal. Now again, this is kind of a strange decision. He's kind of being a little bit over-aggressive. His army is still pretty small. His economy hadn't really kicked in after losing those initial units. It's okay to poke around, but he has to be very careful about engaging out here, as my army is much, much larger than his at the moment. He's taking down these rocks. I have creep here. My Overlord sees it. It's very important to spread out Overlords like that. Keep tabs on expansions, on army movement, on any kind of drop harass. It's very important to have vision of this area here and here. So I got an Overseer, because I knew he had an Observer around. It's very important to kill off Observers. They also track your army movement. They allow Protoss to kill off creep tumors and limit your creep spread, which is very important. Now here, this is a very bad engagement by him. His economy has not kicked in, mine has. I'm off 3 base, he's off 2 base, and really I just have a ton more units. He also has no Colossus, and I have more than 16 Hydralisks. So really that was not a good decision by him. He had good force fields, but it just wasn't enough to compensate. And he loses all his army, and I'm able to just keep pumping units and going for the kill here. Also, this is something I always look for. Robotics units, you usually only have 1 or 2 robotics bays, so it's very, very important to contaminate them. This takes big advantage of how important the robotics units are in the Protoss army, but how few there are. There's only 1 or 2 immortals, so by contaminating that, you really cripple his army. And that just kind of demonstrated how to take advantage of an economic lead as Zerg. You can just convert it into that massive unit lead and really just crush your Protoss if they try and do anything else. This has been a Fragmore University Pro Replay Review brought to you by Bigfoot Networks. For more information on Bigfoot Networks Killer 2100, visit bigfootnetworks.com. For more great StarCraft II content, visit bigfootnetworks.com/fragmore and the Evil Geniuses team website at www.myeg.net.
By combining the speed, intelligence, control, visibility, and domination you need to compete, the Killer 2100 Gaming Network card provides the perfect blend of gaming passion and technical know-how to guarantee your gaming experience is flawless in both its speed and its performance. Find out more information at www.bigfootnetworks.com.